Well, good evening, everybody. How are you this evening? My name is Vincent Kelly, and I want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody on Zoom, because I can see you're all here, you're all snap in on time, and I love that because I love to start on time and, help you to make the most of this time, get you finished so that you can go off and enjoy the rest of your evening. So I'm going to give you some really great data. In the next 45 minutes, I'm going to give you 4 key basics that you're going to need to know about how to regain self-love. Before I start, I want to also say hello to those on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram who are joining us tonight. I don't have you in front of me, so I can't view your comments, but I have somebody keeping an eye on those platforms. So if you have anything that you want to say, or you have a question or a comment, pop it into the comments box and somebody will feed it around to me here on Zoom. And I have everybody in Zoom in front of me, so if you have a question from Zoom, you just simply type it into the chat and I will be able to see your question. I've got it here right in front of me. And we're going to practice that first, okay? So because this is a webinar, it's not just going to be me talking. Throughout the webinar, I'm going to pause and ask you for examples and different things. Now, you don't have to participate, but I found that if you do, and if you make a little attempt, it doesn't matter what your answer is, honestly. I don't care what your answer is, one or the other. If you do participate, you find that you get a little bit more out of it. Okay, so let's do a little exercise. What I'd like you to do, anybody on Zoom now, and for everybody on the other channels, if you're there and you can, then please pop it in. Pop into the chat where you are logging in from. Okay, I want to get you used to using your chat. And I also want to find out where you are, because I like to find out where people are when I'm speaking online. It's different than in person. At least in person I can see everybody, but when I'm online I like to know where everybody is. So if you don't mind, take a moment to type into the chat where you are logging in from. Is it Ireland? What part of Ireland? England, Wales, Scotland, France, Netherlands, Russia, China? Where are you? Okay, Raluca, Bucharest, Romania, fantastic. Ce face, it means how are you for anybody who doesn't know. That's all I know. I hope that I said it right. Raluca, thank you so much for being here. Then Chaitanya from Carlo. Hiya, very nice to have you here. I went to college in Carlo many, many years ago. It used to be called the Regional Technical College. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Carlo. Mainly partying, but I studied a little bit as well, okay? Full disclosure. Olivia from Dublin, great to have you, Olivia. Thank you so much. We're in Dublin here ourselves. We're out between Firhouse and Tala. That's where we are at the moment. Vanshika from Dublin, thank you so much for being here. Great to have you. And Matthew from Oxford in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, Matthew, for joining us. Great to have you as well. And Florina, also from Bucharest. That is absolutely great. Thank you so much. And I can see a few people, Matthew and Asma, you have your cameras on. Thank you so much for being there. And if anybody else wants to put on their cameras, you can, of course, do that. I never make it a forced thing. You don't have to, but if you can, it would be absolutely fantastic. And thank you, Margaret, as well. Great to see you as well. Thank you very much. Okay, folks. So let's launch into this webinar. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to be giving you 4 basics tonight. My webinar is based primarily on this book called Self-Analysis, which I'll be encouraging you to get at the end of this webinar. And I do want you to hang on until the end. It will be about 45 minutes because I have a little special offer for anybody who stays until the end. If you have the television on while you're watching the webinar, as some of my friends who have been on my webinars before have told me, they said, Vincent, your webinar was great. In fact, I was able to watch the football while I was watching it. And I'm thinking, how can you do that? How can you watch the football game and still pay attention to me? And I was questioning it. So from then on, I said, listen, if you've got the TV on, just turn it off. Give me your full attention because I want you to get this data. A little bit about myself. I've been involved in this particular subject that I'm going to tell you about tonight since 1992. I've always had interest in helping people, but I found that before I went searching myself, I found that there were a lot of solutions for people that were theoretically good, but practically not workable or partially workable. And then I found other theories which told people, listen, if you're stressed or you feel lonely or you feel down, just take a pill, and that's going to be your solution, which I've been completely against. I'm more on the traditional approach to handling problems. I much prefer to recommend people practical things that don't involve drugs, because too many people are going down that road, and I think it eventually has an effect on them. Anyway, that's that. Okay, so I've been doing this since 1992. I'm a trained Dianetics means through the mind, therapist myself. I've helped a lot of people over the last 30 years, not only on a one-to-one basis, but also in terms of lectures, personal coaching, helping them with courses, different things like that. And the purpose that I have, and the only purpose I have, is to help people. I want people to do well. I want people to be successful. I am not a sales guy. I am going to promote this book at the end because I think you should get it, but I'm a technical guy. I'm trained in delivering different types of counseling, and I want to share with you things that are going to help you this evening. Okay, so let's launch straight into this, and I want to go over the first factor here when it comes to self-love. So, when we talk about self-love, we have to consider the opposite to it, which is not loving yourself, criticizing yourself, putting yourself down, saying that you're not good enough, constantly worried about things, not having respect for yourself, not doing what you should be doing in your life. Okay? So, before I show you these, what I'd like to find out from each of you, if you don't mind, is what is the thing that you wanted to improve in life, either for yourself or for somebody else, that made you want to come to this webinar? If you don't mind popping it in the chat, that would be great, because it gives me a view of, how I can make sure that this webinar is going to be designed for you. I want you to get something out of it. Each one of you that's on this webinar, I want you to get something out of this tonight. So what I'd like you to do is pop into the chat what you would like to improve about yourself or for somebody else that made you want to come to this webinar. Because I can give you all sorts of information about what I think you need, but I want to find out what you want, and my little survey at the beginning helps me to establish that. Okay, and that's Umer from Dublin. Hello, Umer. Sandra from Lisbon. Great to have you. Thank you so much. Aizma. Thank you, Aizma. Confidence. Lovely. Very good. We're going to address that. Everything, self-respect, self-love, insurance. Thank you very much, Olivia. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Shatanya, increase confidence by removing fear about making mistakes. Okay, thank you very much. All right, very good. Matthew, greater self-esteem, better relationships with family, new relationships. Okay, so self-esteem, relationships. Okay. Very good. Thank you very much, Matthew. And Mick, hello Mick, great to have you as well. Do what I love and passion about. Okay, so goals. Very good. And Florina, healthy boundaries. Okay? Thank you so much. So we're going to have a look here. Folks, thank you very much. That gives me a good idea. And I'll refer to these at the end just to make sure that I've covered everything. Now, the 3 or 4 things that I'm going to go over with you are what I have found in my 30 years of helping people are the most important things to consider and to work on. The most important things. I'm not going to give you a whole kind of motivational speech about how amazing you are and go out there and do things. I'm going to give you some practical, hard-won data about how to handle things in life. Now, each one of us, by the way, For anybody who's been at my webinars before, I studied French instead of art in school. So this is all I have. I'm sorry. This is it. Okay? And arrows. Okay. Right. So, I never learned it because I just studied French. Next thing is that everybody is trying for improvement. We're all trying to improve in the different areas of our lives, whether it's our physical health, you want to go to the gym, or you want to have a relationship, or you want to talk in front of people, you want to open up your own business, you want to get a promotion, you want to do your work better, you want to handle your kids better, you want to do something for your community. We all want to improve in certain areas. And each one of you that's on this webinar tonight, everybody that I can see here, I'm telling you now, you are the exact people that I want on this webinar because you want to improve. You want to better yourself and you want to help other people as well. I know that. Sometimes when people look at these ads for webinars, they go, well, maybe they've got too much on or whatever. But a certain amount of people trickle through and end up on the webinars, and you are the people I want to talk to tonight because I know that you want this. You want improvement. However, if you're that kind of person who wants to get out there and do something different and, improve and get better and, get healthier and have more relationships and have better friends, you are going to run into what we call in the subject suppression. Okay? Now, suppress means to squash down. To push down. To suppress means to squash down. So you are going to run into people who will directly or indirectly be only interested in putting you down. I'm going to give you two examples. One's personal and one's less personal. Give you the less personal example first. A friend of mine is very, very popular on social media, okay? And they are genuinely a really, really good person. And their purpose is to help people with their videos, okay? However, the amount of attacks that they get on a daily basis from a certain small percentage of people is just incredible. You would think, why is it that for somebody who wants to improve the world, they get attacked so much? Well, there's a certain type of personality that does not want to see you doing well. I'm sorry to say that. Yes, basically, everybody's good. Okay. But there's a certain type of personality who doesn't want you to get good. And we call this, in the subject that I'm going to tell you about this tonight, the antisocial personality. Now, this does not mean somebody who doesn't like going out on a Friday night. All right? Somebody who's an antisocial personality has got 12 exact characteristics that make them a liability to be around because they just want to put you down day in and day out. I'll give you my second example. A very close friend of mine. She had a friend for many, many years, a very close friend. However, this friend used to undermine her. She used to, if my friend would go and buy a new dress, her friend would buy the exact same dress, just so that she didn't get any better. If my friend found, let's say, a new boyfriend, her friend would just criticize. If my friend made new friends, her friend would talk about her behind her back. So because my friend is a very considerate person, she always made excuses for her friend. But finally, when she got educated, she realized that being around such a person made her a roller coaster. Okay? In other words, if you are connected to somebody in your life who does not want to see you expand, does not want to see you grow, wants to see you constantly stressed. They're going to put you down directly or indirectly. And when they put you down, you're going to hit a low. And when you hit that low, you're going to start to doubt yourself. You're going to start to criticize yourself. You're going to lose your confidence. You're going to lose your self-respect. And because you're a good person, you're going to think it's you and not them. So, the very first step is to be able to identify in your life, and we're talking about external things now, who are your friends and who are the people that you should question. Let's just say question. How do you identify it? Because when you go out in life, all you see in life is this social veneer. Everybody's walking around with a smile. Everybody's your best friend. You know, you think that people don't have bad intentions. But there are 12 characteristics which identify a suppressive person, okay? And there are 12 characteristics which identify a social personality. And a social personality is a person who wants to see others doing well. Complete opposite. And every single person on this webinar, I believe that you all fit into this category. But unfortunately, you are going to run into people in this category. So, number one is, don't be so naive by thinking everybody around you is your friend. They all love me. They all care about me. You inspect by what are the person's actions and words, and how do you feel around them, and what's going on. Now, there's a booklet which I'm going to include tonight. It's called The Cause of Suppression. And in this, there are the full explanation of the 12 characteristics of a social personality versus the 12 characteristics of the antisocial personality. Because you can't just use one set of criteria to make a judgment about somebody. You have to be fair. Just because I kick the cat at home doesn't mean that my wife can now stick me into this category just because it happened once. So you have to be fair about your examination and your review of people in your environment. It's as simple as that, because it's going to determine how you feel about yourself. Practical example and participation time. What I'd like you to do is this, is have a think about your past. And I want you to put in the chat an example of one time you ran across somebody who directly or indirectly wanted to put you down. Directly or indirectly wanted to put you down. You don't have to put names, but just like, I don't know, family member or a friend or a boss or a neighbor. So just have a think about your past and just see if you can think of somebody in your life who used to put you down directly or indirectly. Or if there's somebody at the moment in your life, you can always mention in the chat, but don't mention names. Just don't put down the person's name. This, you might think, is not really related to self-love. It's got everything related to self-love. Because when such a person starts putting you down and you hit one of these lows, you're going to start knocking yourself, putting yourself down, losing trust in yourself, losing faith, and you won't want to communicate as much as you normally would. Okay. And Vanishka, I got your Vanshika. Sorry, emotional intelligence, self-confidence. Okay, so emotional intelligence. Thank you so much. Okay, Olivia. Well, okay, your mother does it every day. Got it. And you'll find that, sometimes if you have it directly in the family, it can have quite a deep impact because there's a whole history there. But it's certainly something that needs to be sorted out. Okay, Margaret, friend. Got it. Now, friends, by the way, are people who, they don't have to be always nicey to you. If you're going to drink a full bottle of vodka one night, it's quite okay for them to say, hang on a second, don't be doing that. Okay? But if you've got someone who's constantly knocking you, it's not good. It's not good for you. It's going to cause you to go up and down like a roller coaster. Okay, thank you, Margaret. Azma, friend, thank you. Okay, same scenario. Umar, co-worker. Interesting, because in work we're expected to maintain this kind of socially acceptable behavior. But part of socially acceptable behavior is politeness and respectability, and respectfulness. So even if you have a co-worker, they might think it's funny to be making fun of you to everybody else, but if it's affecting you, you need to sit down and have a word with them. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay? Shaitanya, sorry if I've mispronounced your name. My reporting manager never wanted me to develop new ideas. Interesting, because inside of all of us is an artist of some nature. And it's a basic impulse to want to create, to want to develop. Okay, so somebody who would stop that, you'd have to have a look at that. Okay, thank you. Let's see, Matthew, when I said I was broke and he said how much money he always has. Oh, that's a very interesting one, Matthew, because, sometimes criticism doesn't always come direct and in your face. It can be very subtly done, very subtle. As your friend, I care about you so much. That's why I think you're not good enough. That kind of thing. Okay, very good. And Nick, when I go to school, a student used to put me down over the way I spoke. It turned out that them themselves couldn't read. Interesting, and that's a very good one. Often, these people are putting you down only out of fear, but appear very aggressive, but are afraid you're going to start getting bigger. Now, this is just one of the things I wanted to point out. If you have this situation going on, it is the number one thing that has to be addressed if you're going to start dealing with self-love. I'm really sorry to tell you that. Yes, we're going to go internal in a few minutes, but this is the number one thing. Now, the exact way you approach it, and a lot of examples are explained in this booklet, which I'm going to promote at the end. I'm not going to get into it all right now. But let me just take a little example. Let's take, could we have Matthew's example of saying he's got money in front of everybody else and humiliate you. Okay? So your simple handling was to say, Joe, would you like a cup of tea? Sit down with the guy for a cup of tea. Listen, I'm just going to be honest with you, right? When you said that in front of everybody else, it humiliates me. And you probably don't think it yourself, but it humiliates me. Would you mind going forward, don't do that. Like, I don't mind people joking, but there's a boundary. There's a boundary over which it gets a bit, critical. So if you don't mind, Joe, that would be great not to do that. Is that all right? Now, if Joe's a reasonable guy and in any way rational, he's going to say, listen, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize that. I'm such an idiot. It's never going to happen again. I apologize. I didn't know that's how you felt. I'm really sorry. If he's a rational, down-to-earth guy, that's what he's going to say. But if he's not, he's going to twist it round on you and say, what are you talking about? Don't be so stupid. What are you thinking? You're ridiculous. You're insane. And they do this thing called gaslighting, which means making you think you're the one with the problem. Because once you start tackling such a person, if they truly are antisocial, they're never going to be able to find fault with themselves, and it's always going to be spun around to you. So just watch out for that. If you have somebody who, you want to have an honest conversation about something genuine that's affecting you, and they turn around and twist it and cut you apart, you have to watch out for that. Okay? So there's more to learn about this. It's very important to get good at this. For me, it has saved my life. It has helped me to find really good friends and a lot of stability and a lot of happiness and a lot of growth. It's really, really, really important. Okay? So that's the very first thing and I suppose my tip for you at the end of this is just to say, keep an eye out on it. Don't just don't just let it slide, because it'll affect you, and you start criticizing yourself and telling yourself you're no good. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now I want to go on to the second thing. And by the way, thank you all so much for your examples and your participation. I am very grateful. Okay, that's the very first thing. This is number one. And as I mentioned, look, I've been doing this for over 30 years. This, you might think, oh, well, Vincent, that's just something. I knew that already. Even if you did know it, you have to learn more about it, and you have to get good at handling these things, spotting it. Like, I can spot suppression very easily these days. I can spot it very quickly by a person's actions, or by their words, or by their nice words, which aren't really nice words, but I can spot it immediately, and I just know. And it just doesn't, even just knowing doesn't affect me. It's just like, whatever. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes if I'm, let's say, on a stage in front of people and I get harassed, that it might not give me the chills a little bit, but, you know, that can happen as part of stage fright sometimes for me. Okay, so the next thing is honesty. Okay, now, what's that got to do with anything, Vincent? Please, explain yourself. As I mentioned, all of you here, and basically everybody, is you want to improve. Okay? And there's a beautiful line that this author wrote years ago. And I love this line. And it's this: man, which includes woman, by the way, it's just the way it's said. Man is basically good. Okay? Now, there are some philosophies and different teachings that will tell you that man is basically evil. You're basically an evil person. I've never believed that personally. When I read this gentleman's line in the book, I thought, you know what, that makes sense to me. So if you're basically good, what you want to do is you want to improve, you want to help yourself, you want to help your children, your relationship, your family, you want to help your job, you want to help your community, you want to help your country, you want to help mankind. You want to do things that are constructive. Okay? But sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we do things that are not constructive. Sometimes we do things that don't make sense. So, for example, let's say there's your wife and child, okay, and you're working every day, and your job is to bring home the 600 or 700 euro at the end of the week so your family can eat. Perfect. Instead of that, you go to the pub and you flush your 700 euros down the vodka toilet. That could be considered something destructive. Now, we've all done things that we shouldn't have done. I've made my own series of mistakes in my life. I'm not, Mr. Holy here that's going to tell everybody, oh, you're wrong or whatever. We've all made mistakes. But what happens is, when, let's say, this guy's name is Joe, and her name is Mary, if Joe does bad things to Mary, because he's basically good underneath it, he's not going to want to cause any more destruction. So what does he do? He holds it back. He withholds it. He keeps it to himself. She says, where's the 700 euro? And he says, you'll never guess what happened. You'll never guess. I was walking home, and my wallet dropped out of my pocket, and I couldn't find it. And the 700 euro was in that. I'm really sorry. But holds back from her the fact that he spent the money on drink. Now, if he builds up more and more of those, he's going to withdraw more and more from his wife and kid. And interestingly enough, he is going to become critical of them. He used to have a really good relationship with his wife and child. Now, he's all of a sudden really, really critical all the time. He's always finding fault. He's always negative about them. He's always looking at her now like she's a nag, like she never gives him any space. She's all yanking me. In most cases, the basic reason behind that are his own things that he has done. And so this criticism comes out really as an effort to try and reduce the size of what he's done. So if he can make these people a bit smaller, it wasn't so bad because they're so bad. Let me give you another example. Let's say the guy is in a company, okay, and his job is to, I don't know, lock the door at night on the shop before he leaves, okay? But one night, he forgets to lock the door. And the place gets burgled, 10,000 euros worth of stuff gone. The boss comes in the next day, and Joe says, no, it wasn't me. I wasn't the last one leaving. I didn't even lock the it wasn't me. I didn't do it. It's kind of not exactly a very believable story, but it wasn't me, or I did lock it and they broke it open, whereas that wasn't the truth. So he also starts holding things back from the job, and once he does that, he's going to withdraw more and more, and he's going to become critical of the job. But we know that a thing called karma exists, so what you put out, you often get back in. So he's not only going to be critical of other people, but he's going to be critical of himself too. So when a person has made too many mistakes, they start to regret their actions. You know, like, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad person, I can't be trusted, I'm no good in relationships, I'm better off on the unemployment benefit, I can't work, I'm bad at everything. So what they do is they run themselves into the ground. Why? Because they're basically good and they want to protect these people from themselves. Now, when I start talking about this on a webinar, often people just tune out, because they go, look, Vincent, you know, it's nothing to do with me, it's not me, and so forth. I'm not asking you on this webinar to look at yourself here. I'm just asking you to just maybe observe it with other people first. We've all made mistakes. The more mistakes you're carrying around with you that you haven't spoken about, it's going to affect your opinion of yourself. It's going to affect your trust of yourself. It's going to affect how well you get into relationships, how well you communicate, and how much action you take in order to succeed. It's going to. Now look, in all sorts of philosophies, there's things like confession and all sorts of stuff that people do, and they've got some workability. But I want to show you, this is the other little booklet that I'm going to show you about later on. It's called Integrity and Honesty. Integrity means being true to yourself. And in this booklet, it shows you exactly, in a step-by-step format, how you can write up the things that you've done which have played on your mind for years. They could be small things or they could be big things. Exactly how to get them off your chest. You write them down in an exact format until you feel they're complete. That's it. That's everything. When you do that, you're going to experience a huge amount of relief, and your opinion of yourself is going to rise and become stable at that level. Because we tend to knock ourselves more than anybody else, and this is one of the primary reasons. This is the second most important thing to address when you're talking about improving self-love, is what you have done in the past that hasn't been cleared up. And I'm not saying you've robbed banks or you've killed people or whatever, but we've all done things. I've done things. As a teenager, you don't want to know what I did as a teenager or in college. I mentioned that, anyway, I won't get into it. But I personally cleared up those things and it feels better. Your opinion of yourself rises, your confidence in yourself rises, your trust in yourself rises. All right? So that's the second thing I want to go over with you. I'm not going to ask you for examples of that unless you want to pop them into the chat. But I just want you to keep that in mind because it's really, really important to be able to apply this. And the full steps on how you do it are explained in this booklet, Integrity and Honesty, which explains to you about how all this works. Last but not least, did I say 3 or 4 things or 4 or 5 things? I said 4 or 5 things, but it's actually 3 things. So here's number 3. And by the way, if you've any questions on what I just said, or even if you disagree with what I've just said, please feel free to pop it into the chat. I don't mind. I'm completely open to any questions or comments, or even if you've listened to what I've had to say and something clicked, please write it down. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. Okay, so if something I said to you over this or the last segment clicked, let me know if it clicked. I really want to know these things. Or if you have a question or a comment, please pop it into the chat. Feel free to do so. Because it's not just I'm right and everybody else is wrong, you know. I'm not Mr. Perfect. Okay? Now, okay, so the last thing I want to do, okay, let me just see. I just might have to go, no problem. Okay, good. The last thing I want to go over with you is from this book, Self-Analysis. Okay. And I'm going to draw this out for you. Okay, so there's you, and there's your future, and there's your past. Okay? And in your past, there's been so many things that were positive. So many positive things that have happened in your life. So many strengths that you realized. So many qualities that you observed in yourself. So many things that you achieved. And in so many ways, your true character developed. Okay, by all these positive things. But when bad things happen, it can cloud all these positive things. So that they're hidden. Okay? To a point you can get to where you think, well, my life is just one big regret. I'm just like, I have no respect for myself. I'm not good enough. But that's mainly because the attention is mainly on these bad experiences from the past. Now, I do a separate webinar which specifically addresses these things and how to clear them up. I'm not going to go into that on this particular webinar because it's a specific area. I want to read something from this book for you, which I believe is going to make sense, and I want you to listen to it. It's important. It's from a chapter, and it's called On Getting to Know Ourselves. On Getting to Know Ourselves. So here it is. Here it is. Are you a friend of yours? Probably the most neglected friend you have is you. And yet every man or woman, before he can be a true friend to the world, must first become a friend to himself. In this society, where aberration just means irrational behavior, irrational actions. In this society where aberration flourishes means it seems to be growing. In other words, you look around society and you think, it's getting nuts around here. Prices of things have doubled. People aren't talking to their neighbours. You know, and so forth. In this society, where aberration flourishes in the crowded cities and the marts of business like marketplaces, few are the men or women who have not been subjected on every hand or on every side to a campaign to convince them that they are much less than they think they are. So, trying to get along in society every day with all this irrationality, you're getting pounded into thinking that you are much less than you are. Advertisements, all sorts of different things. Social media to some degree can be responsible for that. Listen to this. You would fight anyone who said of your friends what is implied about you. It is time you fought for the best friend you will ever have. Yourself. Sometimes when people think, well, who's my best friend? Oh, it's Josie, or it's Tim, or it's Mary, or whatever. That's fine. But you have to have this concept that your best friend should be yourself. Now, next line. The first move, or action, in striking up this friendship is to make an acquaintance with what you are and what you might become. Know thyself, said the ancient Greek. So in order for you to actually give yourself the respect that you deserve, be who you truly are, acknowledge who you are, you have to find out who you are. Underneath all this rubble of past bad experiences, false information, suppression, all these different things that you think are yourself, but which are not. So part of this self-love journey is learning about yourself. Now, this particular book is, I would say, 80% practical. It's practical exercises that you do on a daily basis for 10 or 15 minutes. And the purpose of this book is to help you to remind yourself of all these things here and to bring them back and to restore them to your knowledge. And what that does, though it might not completely clear this, it definitely will push it away and make you stronger, make you more knowing about yourself and more confidence in yourself and more respect for yourself and a higher esteem, as higher self-esteem as somebody mentioned at the beginning. Okay, how is this done? So we're going to do a little practical demonstration right now. And for everybody, thank you so much for sticking with me. We're going to do the very first exercise on this. And if you're a fast typer, you can type along and let me know what you've recalled. And if you're not a fast typer and you'd rather not put it into the chat, it's completely fine. It'd be good to see it for me, so I can see that you're doing it. But here we go. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I want you to think about the answer, try and recall the answer, and pop it in the chat if you can. And if there's no time or whatever, it's completely fine. I'm only going to give you literally just one tiny step of the application of this book, but which you can use on a day-to-day basis, which will improve you going forward in terms of restoring to yourself who you really are. So here we go. Are you ready? Good. Can you recall a time when you were happy? Go ahead. And let me know with a thumbs up or a smiley face that you've done it. Can you recall a time when you were happy? Okay. Thank you. Olivia, Shatanya, Great, Margaret, thank you. Excellent. Margaret, Raluca, when I bought something that I wanted for a long time. Wonderful. Matthew, yes. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is concentrate on the sight in that recall. In other words, what do you remember seeing? What do you remember seeing? And let me know when you've done that. You can just type Y or tick mark, or you can just put a letter in the chat, anything. What do you recall seeing? That's wonderful, Umar. Wonderful. What a great experience. Matthew, great. Okay. Now, here's the next one. Can you recall another time when you were happy? Olivia, my last holiday at my daughter's fantastic. Okay. Okay, Margaret, thank you. Excellent. Can you recall another time when you were happy? And just give me a little yes or even a no if you can find that. When felt my family is all right. Fantastic, Umar. Thank you. Matthew, great. Now, on that recall, I again want you to concentrate on what was the sight in the recall. In other words, what do you remember seeing? You can get that back again. And just let me know when you've done that with a Y or an anything, some sort of a symbol, or a thumb or thumbs up or anything. So see if you can get the sense of sight in that incident. Okay, Olivia, thank you for the beautiful smiley face. Gorgeous. Matthew, thank you. Great, Olivia, thank you so much. Good. Now, last one. Can you recall the earliest time you can when you were happy? So take a moment to do that. Earliest time you can when you were happy. Okay. Once you've done it, pop it into the chat. And look, if the earliest time you can is last week, fine. If the earliest time you can was when you were a teenager, perfect. Or a child, that's fine. It doesn't matter when it was. The earliest time you can when you were happy. Okay, great, folks. Thank you so much. And again, if you've done that, I want you to concentrate on the sight in the recall. Umar, wonderful. And you saw the change after the gym. Fantastic. Now concentrate on the sight in the recall. Now what I'd like you to do on this one is I would like you to pop into the chat, what's the sense of sight? What do you remember seeing? The question was, can you recall the earliest time you can when you were happy? And then I asked you, what do you recall seeing? What's the sense of sight in the recall? If you don't mind, I'd like you to pop into the chat, what do you remember seeing? If you did. And I honestly, when I asked that question, can you recall the earliest time you can? Often people can't because it's too long ago, or maybe it just didn't happen, or they just forgot about it, but it's there. Okay, in any event, if you can put down what you remember seeing, and you don't mind, pop it in the chat. If not, don't worry about it. Now, what I gave you there was just one tiny practical thing that you could just do to recall things. The amount of positivity that you have experienced, the amount of positive thoughts that you've had, the amount of positive emotions and strength that you have, the amount of creativity that you have, positive ideas for the future are all there. And so what this procedure does, and like this is just literally one, it's step one. Can you recall a time when you were happy? Matthew, colourful marketplace in Nigeria. Wonderful, Matthew. Thank you. In the very first list, there are, how many? 75 questions you can ask yourself, and that's just list one. And there are other lists which help you to improve and look at other aspects of your life. Sense of time, list 2. List 3, sense of time again from a different angle. List 4, sense of sight. List 5, sizes, relative sizes. List 6, sound. List 7, sense of smell. And on and on. There's so many different lists here about survival, about strength, and about remembering things. And the whole purpose of this, right, is so that the focus goes away from this negative stuff which has dragged you down, and your focus goes on who you really are. It's not who I am going to tell you who you are, it's who you really are. And what this does is help you to restore your own character. Now, yes, those negative things do need to be handled, and as I said, I'll do a separate webinar on that, but this is something that you can do yourself for 15 minutes a day, and it will really help you. And it's fun. It is fun. And it's easy. It's very easy. And let me just see, somebody else says, yesterday when I met my family after 2 years, and especially my dogs. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Franchica. Now, folks, I hope this information has helped you. I want to give you a very quick summary of what we went over, and then I would like to recommend the books which I told you about at the beginning. I wanted to promote these for you because I believe that the best way to move forward is to educate yourself and to decide for yourself what's the best route for you. Not because I told you, but because you've decided, okay? The first thing I went over was about suppression. You have to keep an eye on people who put you down directly or indirectly. It can and will have an effect on you and will affect your opinion of yourself, your confidence, your self-esteem, and how much you relate to other people. You know? And you have to kind of just go, right, if you're dealing with somebody who's very critical of you or, makes fun of you all the time, at some point you're going to have to sit down with that person with a cup of tea. And the next thing is honesty, clearing up any mistakes that you've made, and there's a very simple procedure in this book to show you exactly what you do to do that. And then finally is restoring and remembering who you really are and making that more stable, and that's explained in this book. So I want to share with you the books that I'm recommending tonight, and I'm going to pop these up on the screen in just a second. So the first book I'm going to recommend for you, and thank you all very much for waiting and for giving me the opportunity to show you this, by the way. Let me just see if I can have a look at these myself. Okay, so this is called Self-Analysis. The book includes the chart of human evaluation to help you better understand and predict human behavior and reactions to life situations. Fantastic section of the book. Number 2, practical exercises you can do to improve enthusiasm, confidence, memory, focus, and much more, and it's been translated into 50 languages. Now, if you get this book before 10 o'clock tonight, I'm also going to explain these books here. Actually, there's a little error there. That emotional tone scale is not the one. We've got the integrity and honesty, which is the book that I showed you, and then the cause of suppression, these 2 booklets. So these are the 2 booklets that are going to be provided to you. If you get them tonight, one of them will be included for free. I can't include all of them for free because it's financially not really viable to do so. Okay? So if you get them tonight, you get these 2 books for free. Now, this booklet shows you all about suppression. There's practical exercises in it, and there's a free online course that you can do with this booklet where somebody will actually correct your exercises. And it's the same with this booklet. There's practical exercises in this booklet which show you the steps on how to clear up any mistakes that you've made. And again, there's a free online course that goes with that book. So as I mentioned, if you get these books tonight, one of them is going to be going out for free. I think the price of it, is it on the thing? No, it's not. I think it's, I don't know, it's not, they didn't put the price on it. I think it's 25 euros or something like that. But the link is going up there now. For anybody who's interested, I would really encourage you to get yourself a copy of the book, Self-Analysis, and these two booklets that go with it, because they will give you the strength to be able to recover yourself. And from my experience, the most important aspects of a person's life that they need to find out about. So before we leave off, it's 25 instead of 30. So if you get it tonight, you basically get a €5 discount. So these are normally 30 euros, it's 20 for that, and 5 for each of these. So instead of 30 euros, it's 25 euros. Okay? The offer is on until 9:30. I'm sorry. Again, I'm correcting myself. It's on until 9:30 tonight, not 10 o'clock. Okay? So if you want to get these and the special offer tonight, it's on until 9:30 tonight. You get it before 9:30, and it's really to just encourage you to get them, you know. That's why we put the special offers on, to just give you that bit of a drive to go and do it. Okay, now, before I say my final words, I want to let you know that I'm going to end this webinar in a few minutes, okay? But if anybody wants to stay for any questions, I will literally just end the webinar, and I will leave it open there for anybody who's any questions that you want to ask me. If you don't mind sharing your own situation, you want to get a little bit of a tip on it, I'm completely happy to give you my opinion. And yes, but I suppose primarily, I think the biggest asset that you're going to have is education. This is why I promote books as the very first line, because I find that people who come into me for counseling or for some, let's say, life improvement course, the people who have read books and who know a bit about it before they come in the door tend to get more benefit, because they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. So there is strength in education, there is strength in knowing about yourself, and that's what these books give you. I've stuck with this subject for over 30 years for the simple reason that it works and it's practical. And also, if you are reading the books and you want to follow it up, or if you have any questions on it, you can always send us an email, contact me through an email, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Okay, folks. So what I'm going to do now is, before we end off, I'm just going to leave the floor open for any questions. So, pop in any questions that you have into the chat. Let's see. There's something came in there. Umar, thanks. You are really good. Well, thank you very much, Umar. I get just recall happy moments in my life. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, Shatyan, I'm so sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. Shaitanya, I hope I said that right. Sometimes we hide things so we won't hurt close people. Yes, correct. For example, I lost my job but did not tell my fiancée. I know she will understand it, but it will upset her. It hurts me to lie when she asks, how was your work? How to deal with this? Yes, yes. Very, very good question. I wonder if you're in Dublin, Shatanya, and you could actually come in here and we could give you a personal consultation. I think that might be the best way to go about it. But the thing is, I think it would be okay, first, just piece of advice. Reach out to Sylvia, who's the host on the webinar. You'll see her in the messages, and ask her for a personal consultation, okay? She'll call you and go over a bit more detail with you. I like to just, when I'm answering such a question, go over some general basics rather than getting too personal, because it's your personal life. The thing is this. If you don't have your job and you're withholding it, every time you go home and your partner asks you, hey honey, how was your day at work? It will touch a nerve. It will touch a nerve. And when it touches a nerve, it's going to, again, leave something extra sitting there. Okay? It's going to leave something extra sitting there. And it builds up and builds up and builds up. So it does have to be handled. And it does have to be handled pretty soon. Now, I think there's a couple of things I could say to you. Look, sit down with your fiance and just say, look, there's something that I have been holding back for a long time. And I didn't tell you because I was really upset. I was really worried that it was going to upset you. But I want to be straightforward and I want to be honest with you because we're in a relationship now and we're going to get married and we want to have a clean slate. So I want to be totally frank with you. And believe me, I didn't want to hold this for so long. But here's what happened. Here's the situation, and I'm trying my best to handle it. Here's what I'm doing to try and resolve it, because your fiance will obviously be afraid and worried about the future and what about the wedding and the money, and So what I would probably do is present it in such a way that, there's the situation, but here's how you're going to solve it, and how you are solving it, and what the solution is. Now, I know you're probably waiting until you've got the solution before you tell, but it's probably wise to just tell the exact situation, because your fiance wants to work with you. You're a team, you work better as a team, and you'll find solutions better as a team if you share it. Definitely. Okay. So I hope that little bit of advice helped. I think it would be wise for you to either come in and see us, have a word with Sylvia about the consultation, and I would also strongly recommend, as I mentioned, the books, because what you've highlighted is just one situation which makes me ask the question, why haven't you said it? And that can come down to lack of confidence. It can come down to lack of communication skill. And so the first steps in handling these things, as I mentioned, is education. So with yourself, I'd still recommend you get the books, read them for yourself, and you'll come to your own conclusions. Because you see, I can only give you an external perspective. When you kind of learn a bit more about yourself, you'll kind of find out what the best approach is. So I hope that helps you, Shatanya. Okay. All right, I hope it helps. Okay, next one is Umar. How to deal if co-workers single you out on experiencing from 1 year. Okay. And so, by the way, just one last little thing. Shatanya, definitely contact Sylvia to book a consultation. She will be able to go over it with you. She's one of my trusted consultants and can help you a lot. Okay? Now, Umar, how to deal with a co-worker single you out and experiencing from 1 year. Always, I think it's my mistake. Always blame myself. It really suppresses me. Okay. Oh, sorry, Shatanya, I missed your message. That's brilliant. Fantastic news. Great stuff. Okay. Umar, as I mentioned, one of the qualities, we call it a quality, of a suppressive person is that when you approach them to try and resolve it, they will always try and twist it around and make it your problem, not theirs. Like, why are you even mentioning that? You're insane. You're crazy. You're loco. It's your mistake. And you can start going, oh, well, maybe it's me. It's me. The first thing is to stop withdrawing. Stop those things that you say. Don't make yourself less. Don't put yourself down. Don't knock what your opinion is. If you have a co-worker who's been doing that, you need to basically sit down with that person over a cup of tea and say, listen, we need to have a heart-to-heart. Is it okay? Can we just have a quick chat? And it's better to do it in person, honestly. Now, if you don't have the confidence to do that, or if you're worried that it's going to react the bad way, there is a communication course that we do which will completely drill you on all aspects of communication, so this is not going to be an issue. I was a very, very, very shy person 30 years ago. Very shy. I did a communication course that I've just recommended to you, and it completely handled my own communication problems. Of course, sometimes when I get up on stage, as I mentioned, I kind of get a bit of stage fright, but normally with people, I'm completely great. However, As I mentioned with these books, the whole point on these books is to educate you so that you know before you go. For example, this booklet has the exact data that you need. So with that coworker, what you would do is you would get this booklet and you would go through all of these 12 characteristics of this particular personality and see do they apply to him. And then you would also go over the 12 social characteristics, which are here listed from 1 to 12, and see do they apply to him. So if the majority of the characteristics are antisocial, you know you're dealing with somebody who might not be the best person for you in your life. And it has to be handled. It's an external situation that has to be handled. Self-love is vital. But if you have a situation like that going on in your life and it's a continuous thing, you can forget about trying to build yourself up internally. You have to handle that external situation. But we can help you with that. And again, if you need personal advice on that, I would strongly recommend contacting Sylvia. Get yourself a free consultation and she can go over with you one-to-one. And then I also recommend you get the books. And as I said, that's going to be there for you. But yeah, it is one of those things, Umar. They will always kind of twist it around to make it yourself. Okay, hope that helps you. Very good. Olivia, great. Okay, great. We get the girls to bed. Sandra Vicente. I love your surname, by the way, Sandra Vicente, because I think that's my name in Spanish. Vicente. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Okay, Sandra, you are such a lovely being. It's people like you that makes me believe in this. I've seen people think they are great and do nothing for others. Well, Sandra, thank you so much for your beautiful comment. I love to help people, and it, gives me strength to be able to go out there and actually assist people. That's what I want to do. I like to see people happy. I like to see people becoming successful, strong, able to improve and expand in their life. So thank you so much, Sandra. It was really, really nice of you. Okay, folks. So if anybody has any more questions, let me see what have we got left in the audience. I've got a few people left. I don't see any more questions coming in, but if you do have a sneaky one that you want to pop in there, we can give it a minute. So again, just to Vanshika, you are so welcome. It's my pleasure. I'm happy to help. We'll say one last little thing before we finish off. Each person, and especially the people who have been left on this webinar, and thank you, Nick, you're very welcome. Nick and Umar and Vanshika and Shatanya and Dolores, each of you, you're here at the very end. Here we are, it's 9 and here you are, still with me. You're the kind of person that wants to help other people, and I love to help people that help others and that want to help others. And what I want to do is give you the strength and the knowledge and the understanding so that you can build yourself up and go out there and help more people. Of course yourself, but you want to help your family, your kids, your relationship, your group, your community, and the whole world. Plants and animals included, trees and everything, you want to help. I finally want to just say thank you very much, everybody, for your attention tonight. I'll let you go. It's been wonderful to be here. I wish you all an absolutely beautiful evening. Thank you very much, Mick, and for having your camera on again as usual. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you. For Umar, Vanshika, Shatanya, and Dolores, thank you very much. Have a beautiful end of your evening, and I hope to see you again in the future. And by all means, do get yourself the books that are recommended. Okay, bye for now, everybody.